really see quite a bit. And the items here are representative of, one's my journal, I might peek in that a couple times. Some photographs that were for sale as artwork, Cuban artwork. So the arts are paramount, I think, in Cuba, and they're doing a wonderful job with their education system in the arts and sciences too. But people are selling their art everywhere, and they're really good. This is a fan. I brought back another fan. I gave that one away, but this one was a hand-painted fan of my favorite town in Cuba, Trinidad. It's made of probably some kind of a plant material, I think. It could have been royal palm. I don't know. And then it's decorated with some sparkly paint, thick sparkly paint. You can pass it around. And print. The print shop will be featured in the talk, and these are some of the prints that were given to us. So you could buy many of them, bigger and better, but those are the prints that were given to us. And then on the way to Trinidad, we stopped at this place with the tablecloth town. And everyone there, including men, needlepoint. And the streets are lined with giant cloth, and that was the one that my mother got me. She got my sister a bigger one. My sister entertains more, but I love this one. The wrapping, so this was a typical kind of a wrapping paper that you can find in Cuba, and the music was ubiquitous. We were never without music at all of our meals. I think breakfast maybe was the only one that we didn't have music, and it was all live and recorded. And recording studios are all over the place. The coffee at breakfast was outstanding, and I am a coffee drinker, and it was so fabulous. I bought this in the airport on the way out. My mother bought it. Pizza for the espresso. Serrano, if you ever do buy Cuban coffee, Serrano. Another feature of the trip was that my luggage never arrived. My mother's magic bag, and she had fun dressing me the whole time. But of course, I wanted to buy some clothes. So this was the first shirt, my first new shirt, and it was a typical musician shirt. I thought, oh, this would be great to give to Jake when I go back. He's a musician. And then I bought him this shirt at the market, and my shirt was much more feminine, and I wore it a lot. And then my mother has a nicer laundry room than I do, so I left my shirt in Delaware. But I also only was wearing boots when I got off the airplane. So I went to the market to find some comfortable, cool shoes to wear in the evening, and these are great. I love them. I love them. Beautiful shoes, and they came 2 for $1 for 15 bucks. So thankfully these fit Jake. They're a little bigger, more clunky, but great shoes, and we'll get started. So there's that. We will have some music, but I guess it's not going to be able to play in the background. Okay, the island is large, right? I don't know how many of you have ever spent time thinking about Cuba. I heard that my mother was going, and I said I want to go. And knowing that I could never afford it, she was very helpful and supported me in this trip. I did not really research Cuba at all. I just went, life rolling along. And
what is that?
So anything that research happened there, and
what's it made from?
Post the trip to put this little talk together. It's a really big island. 11, I don't know the exact size, but 11 million people, but 2.4 million in Havana. You learn about the B's are all B's. If you have your visa.
South of what? North of Cuba?
And we spent most of our time, I don't know if there's a pointer, but we spent most of our time in the triangle from Havana to Cienfuegos. I don't know if you can read Cienfuegos, but it's right here. And that was the last city we were in. And then, so we started here. We traveled out to this archipelago. We took a 40-mile-long causeway and hit the coast out here. Came down through here, through the mountains, Elevation of Cuba, 6,000 feet, down to Cienfuegos, and then a night ride back to Havana and on the plane, and off we went. So we were in Havana for, I think that I can just advance this. Good. For 4 or 5 days, what? No, does anybody, do I need a microphone?
No.
Good. All right.
Can you put the lights down now? or-
Yeah, how do we do that? The airport itself was very small, very simple, getting off the plane. Once it, wait a minute, that's the market. So once inside the airport, what happens? You have to stand in line, you have to take some things up, not much, and you have to go through a tiny little door. A buzzer rings, you wait, you look at someone, they ask you what the purpose of your trip is, and then there's this tiny little door. The buzzer rings, you open the door, and then you're on the other side. It was a little C.S. Lewis-like tiny little door. I mean, it was tiny. Like, it couldn't have fit very much with you. I just had the backpack, of course, in the bag. I was carrying some of our supplies. We brought medical supplies, we brought art supplies, we brought regular items. My items that I should have had my bag gotten there was 6 pounds of soap. And we brought makeup. Once inside, I was the only one that was taken to a room. On departure, I was the only one that was taken to a room. I don't know why, but I was questioned in Spanish. No one ever came to translate. I grabbed somebody right away and said, I need a translator. They're questioning me. They want to know why we're here. They want to know what we brought. And the woman was Cuban, and I had met her in Miami. And she said, just keep your information simple. That was my entry, like introduction to Cuba from her. But anyway, I was so anxious to get to the markets, I could not wait, and we finally did. And this woman was right there at the doorway of an outdoor market with it had a roof over it, but it was mostly exposed. And she was selling all kinds of things that looked like herbs and tinctures too. And I wanted to talk to her, but unfortunately my Spanish is non-existent. So mostly what I said in my whole time in Cuba was muy bien, muy bueno. So I think that means very good. Anybody can translate. There's a few things here that you might, if anyone can't, just please do it. Some signs and things. There she's repurposing. Recycle, reduce, reuse. She's repurposing some medical phosphor. Pretty interesting. Not sure what's in there. And someone else selling seeds. The plants were looking really good.
Ground cinnamon.
Ground cinnamon in the bottom. Oh, good. And the fruit was abundant and delicious. And the meat was right in front of your very eyes. And there was always a big head. Found this very interesting. And they had good signage. Lettuce was it was the season of lettuce, onions, and garlic. We were there in December, 10 days in early December. What days, I don't remember. Here we go, shopping for your plumbing needs. That would be about it. That would be about it. How would you, well, the plumbing was probably, as far as everything else Cuba goes, I think the only limiting thing was the plumbing. And there you have it, right there. That's it. Onions, peppers. Grains were right out for you to scoop up and weigh. Birds and fish. And you see I took that picture off the internet, it's not really good, but birds were in bird cages all over the ground. Sometimes just sitting by themselves on the sidewalk. Garlic. Transportation. Most of the Americans, I think, have a real feeling for the Cubans, the old islands in Cuba, and we used to do a lot of that. I enjoyed the trucks and other forms of transportation, which you'll see. In Havana, this was our hotel, and I could see the stadium from the room that we were in, the Hotel Presidente. and it was lovely. It really was. And the water was running the whole time, and the electricity was also running the entire time. That's the view out of the window. Notice something I picked up on right away were all the cisterns that are on the rooftops. And the buildings look really, really poor for the most part. But once you get inside, they're really nice. They're really fine. There's a little school, right? Little kid school. The schools are all, as far as ages go, and the red uniforms represent their ages. They look like 5, 6.
They came with the beard.
Yeah, there must have been some kind of an acting out of something going on there. Yeah. This is what the school looked like from the hotel veranda. And we saw, it get 6 a.m. Havana wakes up. And usually I'd hear a rooster crowing, and the whole town would start bustling and be on the move by 7, for sure. We visited the school for the blind, this picture looks as if somebody in there may have poor vision. I'm not sure about her vision or his, but this one, I'm not sure. It's not the actual school of the blind. So this was one of the art studios where we brought some supplies. Notice the difference of these two art studios, pretty modern looking here, and not so in the above picture, but everyone seemed to be busy. This is the special schools for blind children, I think, and older, not just young children, and low vision children. It was a very emotional experience. The pictures that I had originally in my other PowerPoint had some of the people who run the school, and they were so incredibly grateful to receive. We emptied duffel bags of stuff onto their break room table. And they had met some of the members of the Rotary that were from Utah that we joined up with. My mother was, I don't think I talked about my mother, but this was a Rotarian joint trip. A Rotarian group from Wilmington, Delaware, and a Rotarian group from Utah combined their efforts and their donations and made a people-to-people trip to Cuba. And I just tagged along. And there were 3 of us who tagged along. A sister and another daughter. So the Utah group had been to Cuba 5 years prior and had promised the people at this school they were coming back with more supplies. So when they saw us, it was really great. And I don't think any of us were dry-eyed at all. It was really emotional. This was the first place they took us for lunch. There's a restaurant behind us, right on the coast, and looking pretty rough on that day, anyway, and beautiful. So in the bus, we're driving around. We'd just gotten off the airplane still, and we visited the Avenue of the Presidents. This is where Castro would stand for hours, 7, 8 hours, and deliver his speeches. And there's a huge parking lot in front of this tower, and people would gather there to listen. And then anywhere and everywhere you look, there's reminiscing things of the revolution and discussion about the revolution. And this is Shade there. It was like the sex revolutionary. I got a couple other pictures of him, but everybody loves him. He's on the hat. He came from Argentina, and brought the tanks down and fought Batista. It would have been in the late 1950s. I think it was 59. Does anybody know exactly? Old Havana. So we get on the bus again and we go back to town. And Old Havana has architecture dating back to the time when New York City was just a forest. That was one of the things I heard, and I loved it. So 1519, people were starting to settle Havana, and the architecture and the streets and the ironwork and the woodwork are outstanding. And then the people are doing all kinds of things to attract tourists. This is one of them. How do they pronounce the Captain's General's quarters. So most of the architecture, being tropical, would be an outer ring of stone and an inner courtyard. And that was a theme that was carried over and over and over wherever you went. So many of the homes in the cities, or the apartments were right on the street, but you could walk through an alleyway and then enter an indoor courtyard. Of course, this one was the captain's general's quarters, so it was exceptionally beautiful. But most of them were beautiful. One of their meeting rooms or dining rooms alongside. The marble could have been from Italy. The bricks on the street are made in front of the captain's general's quarters were made out of a Cuban hardwood because the captains wanted it quiet. They did not like the noise of the horse's feet going by and the sound of the rattling wheels. So this was, oh, I wrote it up there, yeah, a canna tree. Old Havana was, had some forts, I think these are two of the forts, and many books about the Revolution and about Hemingway. Yeah, Hemingway was popular, especially for tourists. The cathedral, the night, of course, growing up Catholic, I heard communists were not allowed to practice. But in 1998, Pope John Paul visited Cuba, and so yeah, until 1998, there was no practicing religion, but he opened up the Catholic faith, and I think others opened up after that. But they're now, we were seeing Christmas trees and other things that represented the Catholic faith. This was the cathedral, it's quite beautiful. The architecture, old and also neoclassical was the term I'm not really big on that. I haven't studied it, but I certainly enjoyed it. Safe to walk around at night. We did find, we were fed very well, and we were fed, our tour was arranged by the government, but we were encouraged to go out and try some local restaurants, and that's a new thing for Cubans. Having their own private restaurants and own private retail, whatever. So we were walking home from the restaurant that we went to that night, and I noticed this marquette, so I was like, we still hadn't been to a marquette, so I was pretty excited about it. And then I noticed this guy, and check out his broom, okay? Look at his broom. I mean, that's what I saw, was his broom. He's a very tall man, so this is an entirely homemade broom. And I was fascinated by the fact that at 11 o'clock at night he was out working and sweeping, and that he had this amazing broom. And I had to talk to him. So my mom took that picture. He was a really nice guy. I just muy bien. I love your broom, I was pointing at the I love your broom. The Molly Cone, the edge of the sea. Sometimes this road is closed due to high surf. I didn't hear about flooding, but sometimes they have to close it because it's too dangerous to even drive on. Laundry is everywhere. Everywhere. Place where you go and buy your ration food, which is not sufficient, according to many of the people's comments. So you're going to get 6 pounds of rice and 6 pounds of sugar, you're going to get some oil, and you're going to get some beans for the month. But it's not enough. You go to the
Yeah, sure.
This is what it looked like. There's stuff in the back. Also places to buy cigars. Remember, if you ever go, you're not supposed to bring them home, nor the rum. I'll remind you of that again. And medication. So back in Old Havana, it was pretty crowded there. It's a really popular place. That was our group. It was part of our group. There was the entire group was 32 people. Some beautiful architecture in glass. Another art studio, a simple little kitchen, organized, really nice easels, as someone pointed out. Cathedral indoors, beautiful woodwork. The Art Academy We went there for quite a visit. The Art Deco building on the side is somebody else's picture. I don't really know, from our group, but I don't really know anything about that, other than, that's Art Deco, right?
Yeah.
So we saw quite a bit of that too. But it was, you know, it was here and there. People were very interested in that. The Art Academy is on the left. This is supposed to be a breast with a nipple and have fallopian tubes. Yeah, that was our introduction to the art for creativity. And what's wrong? And oh wait. Oh well, there's more art. So I'm supposed to show another picture of that Art Academy, but I had a little bit of trouble with my PowerPoint last night. So here's the art at the market. This is the market. You walk inside a big building where I bought the clothes and the shoes. There we go. So breasts. And some of the art from the art students. Very competitive to get in, but entirely free. All the education. 98% literacy in Cuba. This is in the studios of the students. Their heads moved. Really cool. Check out these guys. Gigantic cardboard. A lot of cardboard. And also music. Symphony. All kinds of music. Not just the traditional Cuban music, but we heard a lot of traditional Cuban music. Which we have here, but we can't play. Oh, we're back in Havana. Old Havana. Very exciting to me. I love the art studios. But I couldn't wait to get out of town and get into the countryside and really see what was going on. This Botanic Garden was actually in Havana. This is the Ekman Havana Botanic Garden. Started in 1962, so right after the revolution. We had a really fascinating time here. This is Dr. Luis, and I don't have his last name. I have it written down somewhere, but I didn't get it in here. He studies magnolias, and I couldn't believe it when I got to meet him. You know, that this was arranged for us to go, and he's very, very interested in native plants. He's very, very interested in helping to stop the use of non-native alien species, especially in the mountainous regions where they're growing coffee on the farms. There, he wants to help them learn how to use native species to shade the coffee. And the first thing he said to us was, "You all love plants, right?" He spoke English very well, and I was really, really pleased. Notice the little car over there? That's why I took that picture. Yeah, and he talked about the fact that most of the magnolias grow up high, and that the elevation of Cuba is 6,000 feet. It's really fascinating. This tree is his specialty too. I can't remember. I have to check back on the name of it, what it is, but that he has stood there by his tree. He talked about the serpentine flora in Cuba being the third richest in the world, and being 7% of the region, so a very small portion of Cuba, but having 50% of the flora. And Bob will probably talk more about serpentine, but he doesn't have to here today. So I don't know that much about it, but it's something that I'm interested in. We have some here. There's some serpentine barrens, they're called, in Pennsylvania. That was the first place I learned about aster patens, which is growing now in the entrance to the wildflower garden. So when he started to talk about that, I really felt connected and excited and want to learn more. It's usually green. The soil is actually green. And we could see it here and there. I don't have any good representative pictures of it. 70 endemic palms. And Hillary is reaching out and touching the skin or the flaky bark of the tourist skin tree. Turns red and peels. One oak for his cubanensis. Would you have thought? 4 species of pine. There was a planted pine forest nearby. The medicinal bed. The ethnobotanic collection. Cactus house was fabulous. I was just at Longwood, and I said when we were there, this rivals Longwood, and I still believe it. at Longwood. And this display was so beautifully arranged and alive and thriving and great. It was a small cactus house, but it's really, really wonderful. And then a tropical fern, moist, shaded with shade cloth, 250 species. Not represented in here, but represented on the island. So our bus driver, Papa. And this is the trip that we made. We went way out from Havana, all the way out here on this causeway and saw that beautiful ocean out there. And then back down through the mountains to Trinidad, which is my absolute favorite place. And then that long nighttime ride back to Havana. The highway looked like this most of the time. But it wasn't uncommon to see a team of oxen or a rider or a horse vehicle. I haven't shown any pictures of them. I counted 100 single horse vehicles in a day. I counted anywhere from 15 to 20 riders in a day. And I counted 18 teams of oxen in use. The first stop was the place they called Terrazas, which was an art community in the mountains that was set aside after the Soviets left to be just that. They pulled some people who had been living there and they put them in this community, and they have to live there now, but it's not so bad. It's really quite beautiful. They call it their ecological preservation, but they call it preservation of the biosphere. And it's large. I don't know exactly how large it is, but it's large. The Soviets had been trying to destroy it. They had taken bulldozers and terraced, and they were going to plant the heck out of it, and that's why it's called La Terrazas. But was I excited to get out into the mountains and see some of that? Not too far, up a little higher elevation, was a French coffee plantation. They got chased out by a hurricane in like 18-something. But this was old, and the slaves were living in like stalls over here. The coffee beans were dried out here. And there was a grinder. I didn't get a picture of that. Really well preserved. A wall with some beautiful plants growing out of the coffee plantation. And then some of the homes back in the village. And this guy was our tour guide at that time. He took us to a little cafe. This woman was listening to him talk. She had a very interesting look on her face the entire time. He was telling us about all the problems. Transportation is hell! You have to wait forever! When the Soviets were here, no problem. Now we have these terrible old Russian cars that go pop, 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 pop. And you can just see it in his face. That's him. He was fascinating. He gave us the tour of the plantation, the coffee plantation. Here we were getting, I wondered, at one point I saw our guy give him a dirty look. So a bunch of us were like, did he say too much? My daughter doesn't get enough milk, he said. There's not enough cows. Milk stops at 7 now. I said to put that up there. I said they could use milk to their protein. But this was still a really nice, really beautiful place to be in. Little boats down by the pond. He took us to the belt. This is a place where if you're at or high enough, you can see both coasts. Belt in Cuba near Matanzas. And we weren't exactly high enough, but not a great picture, but I think you can see the deforestation in here, and that was started by the Spanish. I guess they blame, of course, they blame the Spanish. They took all the trees. The oxen were used even in small garden plots. So even in a plot by your house, you might have a team of oxen. The horses were extremely poor, they were extremely overworked, they were hungry, they were tired, their heads were never up unless they were a riding horse. And the riding horses were pretty plump considering. I saw them on the highways riding either with saddles or bareback. I saw people who were kinder than this gentleman is being to his horse. But that was definitely transportation. People made lots of things out of plant material, and it was for sale everywhere, and I got a really nice hat for this summer. I'm excited about that. And there were raised bed gardens all over the place. I did not get any from urban centers, but Havana had many, many raised beds, calling it urban agriculture. And they call this period that they're in right now, still, since the Soviets left in '92, the special period when all their perks went away. So basically they lost the ability to fuel themselves. They don't have much oil, and they're running on blackout periods. They're running very limited plumbing, and they were not farmers necessarily in '92, but they have learned since then how to become farmers. They were pretty well off in the '90s, early '90s, and during this special period, they've made a comeback in how to feed themselves, and they keep calling it organic. You know, I think there's some spraying that's going on, but basically they don't have enough to buy the chemicals, so it's pretty much organic. And the beds in and around Havana were large. These look small, but there were some big ones. Little extra markets everywhere for people to get supplemental food. Tiny little places like this all over. Always a wheelbarrow and always cement. A lot of limestone, a lot of cement. Okay, this tree is anybody want to pronounce it for me? Who knows? Anybody know it? I wrote it in my journal. I got a picture of it. Ceiba, the ceiba tree. Ceiba. Ceiba? C-E-B-A. Yeah. Pretty big, pretty beautiful, tropical. Jose Marti, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, Simon Bolivar, all people constantly referred to in posters and billboards. This is from the School of Fun. That's the guy I'm so happy to see it. Everybody read that? Or should I read it out loud? Nope, got it. More laundry, art, beauty, studying old cars. Old cars that still look beautiful. Masters of Bondo. and they change out the engine. Somebody said some of them might have an airplane engine. Whatever engine they can find. You know. The Atkins Institute, located in Cienfuegos. Okay, so this was the other botanic garden. We got to 2 botanic gardens. I couldn't believe it. Just read the highlighted part. The Harvard Botanic Station for Tropical Research and Sugarcane Investigation. In 1920, the ties between the garden and Harvard became more formal with large endowment provided by Atkins. The garden was used by professors, students, and visiting fellows to study tropical botany and was tended to by the local citizens who made up the grounds crew. With the Cuban Revolution in 1959, conditions became difficult for travel and for maintenance of the Atkins Garden. And in 1962, the U.S. embargo restricted American involvement. The director, Dr. Duncan Clement, left Cuba in 1961, and Harvard terminated its support. So now we're going to get a little tour of that garden. This guy, Pedro, but great guy. I connected with him. He said, I started as a gardener. Now I'm giving tours. Banyan tree. Thank you. Banyan tree. So their roots descend aerially, and they root, and they keep going. Keep going. Keep going. They're gigantic. Two-faced tree, also called mother-in-law tree. Lots of names for mother-in-law. This is the only one I brought back, but I kept hearing that over and over again. Hibiscus, woody tree. vegetable brain. I don't know. The cactus house there. This was the coolest thing. He was looking and looking, and finally he said, look, there it is. This is the Lecidus, or the seed nuts. Yeah. So Brazil nuts. Okay? And there's the fruit capsule. And here's the lid. We found this on the ground after hunting for it. So when it starts to it's interesting, also called monkey trap, because the monkeys want to put their hands in there, but that rim is extremely sharp. So they want to put their hand in and take all the nuts, but they can't because they have to close their hand in order to get it out. So they can only take a few nuts. So it's good for that treat. Something very beautiful. Another very beautiful Exoxura, I had that before. Petticoat palm. Oh, the vegetable brain in another fashion. Cannibal tree. African sausage. These were really big. Everything was planted in 1900 or maybe even before. So these trees were all big and beautiful. I don't know what that one is. I didn't get a name on it. But big. No buttressing. I thought this is really interesting. How could it be so big with those tiny little things? So we've now, you remember the triangle from Papa, the bus driver? So we've gone from Havana out towards that northern coastline. I'm trying to keep you straight. I think we hit Santa Clara first, and then we went out, really out on the causeway. Santa Clara, beautiful, beautiful, colonial, late 1700s village. Our stop here was to the senior center. We were bringing supplies. We even had big bags of pens with us. We had pens and paper, pencil, wheelchair. That was interesting, carrying a wheelchair from Miami, Cuba. This was their senior center. It was amazingly beautiful. And there, they gave us dancing lessons. They had us up and dancing within our first 10 minutes of being there. And I had some other shots of that. I wonder if this will play. Any ideas? Do I push something? Doesn't look like it. I'm going to skip it. Figure that out for the repeat. There will be a repeat because Don couldn't be here today. So, going through the countryside, it doesn't look like Havana anymore. No, not at all. And I think this is an old sugar. No. They have enough. They were exporting sugar, right? They were exporting bananas. They were exporting some other things. Right now, they've got plenty of bananas and plenty of sugar for themselves, but they're not exporting sugar. The children would see the bus and get excited. We gave them things as we got there. But notice they have shoes. They're dressed. They're healthy. In general, the people looked very healthy to me. And they were extremely, especially in and around Havana, they were extremely athletic. They were athletes. There were people working out all the time, people running on the track. Young people were buff. And the older people weren't fat. Okay? So this is the coast. This picture doesn't do it justice at all for what the light was like in Cuba. In general, what the light was like in Cuba is, I can't explain it. It was just fabulous. This was the sunrise on the coast. They are building resorts at warp speed. And they're getting French, Canadian, German, everybody but us. Everybody is going to Cuba because it's so beautiful. Unfortunately, because of the strife that's going on too, doctors and lawyers and physicists and engineers and surgeons are working in the resorts in order to pay their bills. Or they're getting shipped to Venezuela and trade for oil. Chavez, by the way, was brought in the time we were there. We were walking around Havana and got into the middle of this cavalcade. It was interesting. What's going on? Chavez is here. Surgery. There was a slug. But look at the beach, look at the water. I mean, gosh, and they're building these Havana things daily. So I had some pictures of that was being constructed because I was hoping Jake would make one for me. Some really close-up detail. This place is, how are we doing on time? I'll speed up. This is the tablecloth town. Very, very poor, extremely beautiful, very poor. And you can walk up the ladder and take pictures. India everywhere. This is from up in the tower. And then Trinidad. Okay, so the long bus rides were tiring, but we got to see a lot. The bus was quite comfortable. It was brand new from China. And when we got to Trinidad, we were there at the closing of day light. So the light was slanted and low and hitting all of this plaster and iron and woodwork and causing me to be quite emotional. When I got into this village, I just had to go away from the group and, compose myself. It was so amazingly beautiful. This was from up in the bell tower, and over here is down in one of the large colonial buildings built maybe in 1700, 1600, 16 something, I don't know. This guy's selling his music right here. Everybody makes a CD. But there's that bell tower and the light hitting that way. The beaver tail tile on the buildings, exceptional. The cobbles on the street are original, so I don't know, 1600, I don't know. I didn't get the exact date. Look at the ironwork here. So the doorway over here. Imagine business interests entering Cuba. What's going to happen when it opens up? Some of our travelers were like me and everything. I've been anywhere and done anything. But some were bucket list travelers, and they'd just been in the Middle East and had like a close encounter with the Hezbollah. They were really seasoned travelers. They told me that this place is going to be wiped out. Like, people are going to come in and take everything that they can take when this place opens up, when and if it does. And I just thought that was really, really sad. So Cuba wants transportation, a lot of these. Cuba wants people to come. They want change. But they realize how beautiful their homeland is and how exceptional it is. And they don't want it to be South Beach. They really don't. Not everybody. Some interesting artwork. This is a little bit of a jumble now. My PowerPoint jumbling. This was in one of the art studios. I loved it. This one upset me, but I thought it was interesting. Cienfuegos. So a city, Trinidad is much more colonial and small and very well preserved. Cienfuegos is a big city on the coast. Now we've gotten down to the southern coast, hitting the base of the triangle that I drew. And this, that's like 1959 Sequoia or something, I don't know. Our first taxi ride that we took in Havana looked just like that. Horses were streamlined, really, really poor shape. This one, notice this broke down because the wheel's completely off. It's propped up on the wagon, is propped up on a chair. The bakery. Bread wasn't very good. I'm not sure what's going on with their wheat or where they're getting it or what. The bread was a little strange. But I thought the bakery was very cool. time was getting loaded up with bicycles. These people over here are Canadians, or Germans, I think, and they're going to go on a bike trip. So this is like for real transportation. Wow. I would love to try this. This is the choir. Do you think I could do something here to try it? Just hit it. Yeah, hit it. That's okay. It's all right. I just drag, pulled it over there. All right, so a mango tree, very big mango tree. People out, crew, not kayaking. They had the big long paddles. Cement work, always. A beautiful hotel in the middle of Cienfuegos. So this is what it looks like on the street. You walk inside and you have this. Really, really pretty. Really nice. Great food the whole time. Pork, turkey, savory breakfast, of course lots of lettuce, and tomatoes, and papaya, and mango. No, it wasn't the mango season. Banana. They were really, really well fed. I wondered if this was for I had to leave early, but I missed this. The home of irrigated plant. Delaware has a royal family, right? I'm from Delaware. I'm sorry I didn't get to see this. But Xanadu, built by Irénée DuPont in between 1927 and 1930, he retired from the DuPont company at the age of 49 after really expanding it quite a bit, and built this home for $1,300,000 in 1930. Imagine, it was full of carvings and Cuban wood from Santiago de Cuba, and art, major art from everywhere. And, but his neighbor, how about that? It says something about what was going on during that period. It says a lot, I thought, about what was going on during that period. And I had a picture, I don't know if I have it in this here. Oh, there I am, headed out with my hat for the summer. Small airport. Yeah, I had a picture of the rum and the cigars. So one night at dinner, we were offered, after dinner, free little tiny case of rum. And rum was all over the place. On the street, and you could buy a fifth everywhere. My mom and I went, got one, and brought it back to the room. We brought back Havana Club. Oh, this Cuban rum, oh, this is great. Well, after dinner, we had rum named Santiago de Cuba. And that was something really special. So I had a bottle of that and a box of cigars. And we were given licenses or permits to be there. It's an embargo. It's serious. I kept reading it over and over again. It would be like a $150,000 fine if they found rum or cigars in your bag. So I did read it a few times. Right. I did bring back a banana though, by mistake. My mom had one and I had one. Those little bananas were everywhere. We were always snacking on them, and we ended up. They never opened our bags. They did not look in our bags. Could have brought back 5 bottles of Santiago. Can we play the music and maybe I don't know. Can we play the music? Everybody can get a closer look. Take a look at this smuffin, or yeah, feel this shirt. Look at the buttons.